Luca, you look at the situation evolving right now, and I said this yesterday, that the experience of the last 5 years leaves us waiting for this can kick that could possibly come on Sunday night. As you sit around the table at your institution and you come up with these Grexit scenarios, etc., what are you looking for on Sunday night?
Well, I think now, from what we know, orderly Grexit is probably the most likely scenario.
Does that exist, Luca?
Well, it's possible. First of all, let me say that there are also different scenarios, somewhere in between a Grexit and something like stay in the euro area in a different form. So I think it's possible, but I think it's very difficult to have really a convincing deal because the trust between the two parties is basically non-existent. And I think the only option, I think, for the Greeks is to accept effectively a deal which is even harsher than it was last week. It was the case for Cyprus a few years ago. They may be forced to sign something which is even worse than they expected for some kind of vague debt relief in the future.
In that environment, you've got to help manage money. And when you help manage money, you've got a choice. You either invest it or you just sit on the cash. And obviously, as a client, they're not going to be too happy about that. What is de-risking right now ahead of that situation? What does that portfolio look like?
Well, we believe that almost any outcome, in a way, apart from really a messy kind of Grexit, would be positive for European equities, because if you have, let's say, a deal like we have seen in the past, there would be some risk, kind of risk aversion will actually fall. If there is even some kind of a Grexit, but it's actually orderly, with more, I think, a backstop from the ECB, and the government, or let's say Germany, supporting Spain and Italy, I think that could be also positive. So I think it's important. Obviously, we have to wait. But the deal is not going to be easy, and it's not going to be good, I think, for the Greeks.
When the relief rally, if it indeed comes under your scenario, where do I want to be positioned? Do I want to be in equities or bonds to really profit from that relief rally?
I think you have to be positioned on equities, but also on some peripheral bonds, especially in Italy and Spain. And we believe, especially in the long end, on the 30-year, this is where I think there is more value now in peripheral bonds.
You really want to have duration? Because the big call over the last couple of months was to avoid duration. Why so bullish on the long end?
No, my point is that if there is, I think, a deal, this is the area where I think you're going to see
right.
the biggest rally, which is obviously in the equity side, but also in the long-dated Italian and Spanish bonds.
As a final question, you look at the equity market and we talk about whether we'll get a correction. I mean, we can argue about it. We've pretty much had a correction on the stock 600, 9.98%. Does that 0.02% really make a difference? How much downside is there if we do get that messy outcome that you're not anticipating, but others are cautious about?
Well, if there is really a scenario like this, I think we can expect even another 10% minus in the market. I think we shouldn't forget that the situation in China is not great. Even the US market is not as strong as it was. So I think if there is really a bad outcome from this, I think there is definitely more potential for a correction in Europe, and that's for sure.